Bones, there's a thing out there.
Why is any object we don't understand always called a thing?
Headed this way. I need you. Damn it, Bones. I need you. Badly.
Captain Kirk reunites the crew of the Starship Enterprise as an alien threat speeds toward Earth in the new movie version of Star Trek. One of 5 new movies we'll be reviewing this time on Sneak Previews. Across the aisle from me is Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune.
And this is Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times. Now, in addition to Star Trek, on which we really disagree, guess who likes it? We'll be reviewing Dustin Hoffman's new film about divorce, Kramer versus Kramer, which I think is one of the year's best films. Also, Mr. Mike's Mondo Video, a comedy film originally made for TV but thrown off the air by a television censor. Also, a second look at the Walt Disney cartoon feature, Sleeping Beauty, which is being brought back to hundreds of theaters nationwide for Christmas. And now Roger begins with comedian Steve Martin starring as, what else? The Jerk.
Steve Martin has become one of the most popular comedians of the 1970s, but without my support, I just don't think he's funny. Still, I have my hopes for Martin's movie debut in a new comedy called The Jerk. I thought maybe the movie wouldn't depend entirely on Martin's rather shallow comic personality. To say I was disappointed is an understatement. The Jerk is a flat, dumb, and tasteless movie in which calling Steve Martin's character a jerk is almost an act of kindness. Martin plays the adopted son of a black sharecropper. He hits the road seeking fame and fortune. He gets rich with a new design for eyeglasses, and then he louses everything up because he's such a jerk. Here's a scene from early in the movie after Martin has left his home in the South and meets the beautiful Bernadette Peters.
Oh, miss? I was just standing here right now, and I was wondering if you weren't doing anything tomorrow. Maybe you might want to go out.
What?
Maybe you might want to go out with me.
Are you trying to ask me for a date? Once for no, twice for yes.
Kind of a tired old gag. I think I've seen that before several times. Some of that shtick seems to be left over from the days of silent comedy. And it might work better as silent comedy, where it would look more like slapstick and less like mugging. Martin seems willing to do almost anything for a laugh, and every scene in the movie wants us to laugh for the same reason as the last one, because Martin's such a goofball. Well, that gets old fast. This next scene, for example, starts with a nice moment in the bathtub, but its ending is just plain embarrassing.
Honey, guess what? I wrote a song for you this morning. I'm picking out a thermos for you. And maybe a barometer, too. And what else can I buy so on me you'll rely? Honey, there's a question I've been wanting to pop, but I've been afraid you'd say no. But this seems like the right time and place, so here goes. Honey, will you marry me? Yahoo! Come on, let's seal it with a kiss. Get in the tub with me. Not you. Where's Marie? What letter? Dear Denver, server forward to tell Rona to be Rona. Marie! Marie! Come here! Good idea! Marie! Marie! Why did you leave me? I couldn't read the letter. It was too blurry. Marie! Marie! Here, boy. Marie! Marie!
Marie! Marie! Where are you, Marie? Marie!
Now, there's a problem with that scene, and the problem is that if he were trapped outside naked, then in a sense that could be funny, but because he's doing it as an act, I don't know, I don't find it funny, and Steve Martin doesn't seem to be having a good time in The Jerk. The whole movie seems strained and uptight. What should be zany turns out to be simply nervous. He makes us uncomfortable. Martin's personality wore me out, and eventually it crossed the thin line from being wild and crazy to being repetitive and tiresome.
I think I know what you're saying with that scene. If he does go out there as a character and gets trapped like that with the dogs there, that's funny, but we know immediately that it's Steve Martin playing a guy and says, look at this joke I'm going to show you. Now that can work on a nightclub stage where you can see it's an actor and he's a nightclub comedian, of course. It doesn't work in a feature-length movie. We want to see a real character there. There's no character there. Jerry Lewis used to do the same thing, but it was Jerry Lewis portraying a stumble-bum kind of guy.
Right.
We're always aware that it's Steve Martin laughing at what he's doing while he's doing it. It doesn't work in a full-length movie.
And there's a problem there in all the scenes where he's with other people because they have to pretend that they're playing real characters. In other words, they have to play it more or less straight. They have Bernadette Peters and all the others. They have to be there playing their characters, and then against them is Steve Martin being Steve Martin playing the character, so that they're kind of embarrassed sometimes.
There are a few scenes, I mean, the reading of the note with the dribbled water, that was kind of cute. But just trying to imagine seeing 95 minutes of that stuff, it just wears you out a little bit. Now, our next film is much better. I think we both agree. Kramer versus Kramer is an impressive new film about some serious subjects: marriage, divorce, and a child custody fight. Dustin Hoffman stars as a New York advertising executive who's so wrapped up in his work, he doesn't realize his marriage to Meryl Streep is falling apart. One day he comes home from work, and she abruptly tells him she's splitting. Trying to pull her own life together, Meryl Streep leaves Hoffman behind to take care of their 7-year-old son, but later she has second thoughts. She wants her son back, and she and Hoffman meet in a restaurant to discuss it. They haven't talked to each other for months.
What?
I have a whole speech.
No, go ahead.
I don't know. All my life, I've felt like somebody's wife or somebody's mother or somebody's daughter. Even all the time we were together, I never knew who I was. And that's why I had to go away. And in California, I think I found myself. And I got myself a job. I got myself a therapist, a really good one. And I feel better about myself than I ever have in my whole life. And I've learned a great deal about myself.
Such as? No, I'm really, I'd really like to know what you learned.
Well, I've learned that I love my little boy. And that I'm capable of taking care of him.
What do you mean?
I want my son.
You can't have him.
Two superior actors there. You can see the intensity of this film in that scene. As the movie moves toward its climactic custody fight in court, Dustin Hoffman tries to take better care of his son, but that gets in the way of Hoffman's work at his advertising agency, and his boss notices what's going on.
Look, I can't let your family problems interfere with my responsibilities. I got a shop to run.
Okay, look, I regret it, and I promise you it will never happen again, okay?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, wait a minute. It's for you. Pick up 461.
Who is it?
Pick up 461.
Yeah? Oh, hi, Billy. What's up? No, 1 hour of television a day, that's the rule. No. I don't care what the other mothers do, Billy. We made a deal. Look, I can't talk now. I'm busy. We will talk about it tonight when I get home, all right?
What's that say?
As Hoffman chooses to spend more time with his son, his work slips so badly he's canned from one ad agency and is forced to take a lesser job at another. His son loves Hoffman's new office.
Wow! This is me!
You like it?
Yeah.
Careful, careful, careful,
Okay.
Scary.
What's that building near the water, Dad?
That's a UN building, and that's the East River right there. And look across there. You see that?
Yeah.
That's Queens, and look way, way down there. You know what that is?
What?
Brooklyn.
Isn't that where you used to live when you were a kid?
That's right. And this is where I work.
really your desk?
Yep.
Oh. Are you and Mom ever gonna get remarried?
No, Mommy and me will never be remarried.
I bet if she saw this, she'd remarry you.
That's a touching scene, and this is simply a superb film. Kramer versus Kramer is very sympathetic to the problem of men trying to be both principal breadwinner and father at the same time. In this day and age of so many women's liberation pictures, what I like about Kramer versus Kramer is that it is not just a good women, bad guys movie. Each character is treated sympathetically, and at the same time, each character is held accountable for his or her actions. And so I think what we take away from the film is the knowledge that what an incredibly difficult undertaking marriage and family making really is. So without any question, in my opinion, Kramer versus Kramer is one of the year's best films.
That's my opinion, too. Kramer versus Kramer is already on my best 10 list, and I think this is Dustin Hoffman's best performance.
What about Ratso Rizzo?
Ratso Rizzo, A Midnight Cowboy. That's a very good performance, too, but I think it's kind of easier to do a real character, a real eccentric character like Ratso, than to do a middle-class guy like this. This is really good acting. Yeah. And another thing I liked about the film is that it's not a tearjerker that simply goes for the plight of the kid, as a movie like The Champ did earlier this year. Yeah. The poor kid torn between this marriage that's breaking up and the child custody fight. This is about the plight of the parents, and they have problems too. And what's fascinating is that it takes a very adult approach to this, in which each of the two adults, Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep, is trying to do the right thing in 3 different ways. The right thing by their own lights, the right thing to their marriage partner or former partner, and the right thing to the kid. And sometimes the right thing is not the same thing in those 3 cases.
The story is very complex for a simple little story about just one marriage. It takes you along this way. At the beginning, when the marriage is breaking apart, you're sitting there thinking, never get married.
Yeah, right.
Then when they go into court, you think, never get divorced. and I sat there wondering, you know, why don't we get more movies like this? This is something about such a common subject, marriage, divorce. And we just don't get it in American films very often. This is an unusual film. I know it's getting a lot of praise from a lot of critics, and so people might think it's something with spaceships or a big spectacular. There's no big spectacular. What's spectacular is the quality of the acting, the quality of the writing, characters that make you think about them after you left the theater.
Well, I don't think people will think it has spaceships in it, but it certainly has a lot of inner space in it. I saw the movie twice, and both times I was really left thinking about these people and about their lives. But speaking of spaceships, for our next movie, Star Trek, there are, I think, 2 questions that have to be answered. Everybody wants the answers to these. First, does Star Trek do justice to the popular television series? And second, are the special effects any good? Well, I think the answer to both questions is yes. The television series made a successful formula out of combining adventures in outer space with basic questions about human nature, and so does the movie, which opens as a vast alien presence, sort of a star cloud, is discovered heading straight toward planet Earth. The Starship Enterprise, which has just completed a massive overhaul, is assigned to go out and meet the invader, and Captain Kirk, who has now been promoted to Admiral Kirk, tries to reassemble his old crew. Everyone's on board except Mr. Spock, the half-human, half-Vulcan, totally logical science officer, who in this scene surprises the crew by turning up late.
Permission to come aboard, sir.
Granted, sir, granted.
Spock. Spock.
I've been monitoring your communications with Starfleet Command, Captain. I'm aware of your engine design difficulties. I offer my services as science officer. With all due respect, Commander.
Mr. Spock. Well, so help me, I'm actually pleased to see you.
It's how we all feel, Mr. Spock.
Captain, with your permission, I will now discuss these fuel equations with the engineer.
Mr. Spock, welcome aboard.
And so the old crew's back together again, plus a last-minute replacement named Ilea, an alien who joins the crew and then is cloned by the invading space cloud. In this scene, the invaders use Ilea as a way of making contact with Kirk and his crew.
I've been programmed by Vijay to observe and record normal functions of the carbon-based units infesting USS Enterprise.
Jim, tricorder. Who is Vijay?
Vijay is that which programmed me.
Where is Lieutenant Ilea?
That unit no longer functions. I've been given its form to more readily communicate with the carbon-based units infesting Enterprise.
Carbon-based units? Humans, Ensign Perez. Us.
Guess I never really thought about myself as a carbon-based unit before. The story of the Star Trek movie revolves around favorite themes of the TV series, which are, what is intelligence, what is life, and in which ways are humans, and Vulcans too for that matter, different from the other beings in the universe. The crew of the Enterprise confronts these questions after they meet the invading alien force, and that leads to all sorts of opportunities for the movie to exploit what we're really looking forward to, which is the special effects. And so, how good are the special effects? I thought they were pretty good. The scenes in the futuristic spaceport at the beginning of the movie are obviously phony, but the stuff in outer space ranges from the adequate to, on a few occasions, the mind-boggling. Star Trek is not as visionary as 2001. It's not as scary as Alien. It's not as exuberant as Star Wars. But it is fun at the movies, and I had a good time.
And my mind wasn't boggled once by any of the special effects. I'm sorry, we saw the same effects, but we had wildly different reactions, although, to be fair, you did say at the beginning they weren't so hot. They had a lot of trouble getting the special effects, I think you know this, and they had to change special effects teams. And frankly, all that they got, I think, are just small duplications of some of the stuff in Star Wars, which we've seen so often that we're really, I think, looking for an advance from that now. And so I wasn't really dazzled at all.
Do you think, Gino, that we get too hung up on the technology in these science fiction movies that after 2001, after Alien, after Star Wars, the critics in particular are looking at the special effects as kind of a sweepstakes, whereas the audience is really more interested in the movie as an entertainment or as an experience than...
You said it right when you were talking. You said the two things we want to know. Is it as good as a TV show, and are the special effects any good? I think
they are fairly good. They're not, you're right, they're not as great as 2001.
So that's a letdown. Of course you want to see something better that you haven't been seen before. That's the whole basis of movies, dazzle us, especially when they go out to outer space. But on the question of the story, I think that there's a big flaw here. Maybe you agree. There's this black cloud invading. We're set up. That's the major confrontation. So naturally, we wait for 2 hours to find out what's in the cloud and what's going to happen. Who's going to get hit? Who's going to hit whom? Well, it never happens. We get a real letdown here, and we get some of that phony moralizing from the TV show. Guys in spaceships telling us we're human because we love each other or something.
Well, I don't think it's phony moralizing. I think that's one of the endearing things about the TV show and about the movie is the way that it kind of looks at human nature in a fairly optimistic way. But I agree with you, they missed the boat by not having a great villain. The greatest thing about Star Wars was Darth Vader. Darth Vader was the most popular character in the movie, and I think here they missed the boat by not having a villain equally as bizarre, as outrageous, or as individual.
I don't know. What I'm saying, I guess, is maybe little kids will like it, but I think that even they will be bored because the film just runs on.
Okay, well then here we do have a major difference in opinion. You're saying little kids will like it. I'm saying a lot of other people will like it too. I enjoyed it. I think as a movie named Star Trek, the sort of thing we're anticipating, I think this is a pretty good experience.
And I was let down. Okay, here's where we maybe agree. A couple of months ago, NBC TV decided not to run a television comedy show called Mr. Mike's Mondo Video, written and directed by Saturday Night Live comedy writer Michael O'Donoghue. The NBC censor said the show was in bad taste, and O'Donoghue responded by taking it into movie theaters. Something too hot to handle for TV always sounds promising, but Mr. Mike's Mondo Video turns out to be a demented washout. A series of dumb, unfunny sketches that make the whole film seem long, even though it runs only 1 hour. The film is a series of fake documentaries about weird things going on in the world. In one typical bit, we're taken to a swimming school for cats.
Amsterdam, or as the Dutch call it, City of Cats and Canals. A dangerous combination, and yet, miraculously, there hasn't been a cat drowning in over 300 years. Incredible, you say? Let's stop in at Europe's oldest cat swimming school and talk to instructor Hans Houten.
1, 2, and breathe. 1, 2, and breathe. Keep the toes and the tail pointed. Claws in. And don't be afraid to get those whiskers wet. You do it when you drink milk. Okay, here we go. Yumpin' Yiminy, you're swimming! Now remember that flutter kick. Moments like this make it all worthwhile. When I can take a student who's scared of the water, help him conquer his fear, and give him a sense of pride and self-confidence, well, You can see it. It carries over into other areas of their lives.
I don't know, that's a funny idea maybe for a little while, but not when it goes on that long. The principal writer for Mr. Mike's Mondo video, obviously, as you can see, likes his humor a little sick, and the film is going to offend a bunch of people, I'm sure. I found only a couple of its routines at all funny, so it turns out that NBC censor was right. Mr. Mike's Mondo video is raunchy, but that censor could have gone on and said it's also inane and juvenile. A bad show.
Right. You know, it's oftentimes the case that when the censor for one of the networks criticizes something or doesn't let it on the air, we all jump on the bandwagon and say, gee, this is terrible, it's censorship. In this case, the guy deserves a round of applause because Mondo video is pure garbage as far as I'm concerned. It wasn't funny at all.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, people, I think, are interested in this because of the Saturday Night Live crew on this. Well, they're not there very much. A couple of the actors make a few token appearances. This is not like one of the shows on NBC, and you're going to be really run down. We showed that clip, you know, of the cat swimming, and that was actually taken from the videotape of the show that was going to go on the television. When you blow it up in a movie theater, as been done, it's washed out colors. It's not only short, only an hour, it's not only insipid,
it's out of focus.
You got it.
I was sitting there, I almost had a list. You know, I thought, I've seen a lot of bad movies in 10 or 12 years, but I've never really felt quite so ripped off as I feel sitting here in Mr. Mike's Mondo video. So a happy Christmas to you too, Mr. Mike. And it's a tradition around the holiday season that the people of Walt Disney re-release one of their full-length animation features. And this year they've dusted off the 1959 cartoon version of Sleeping Beauty. Now, this is not one of the great Disney animated classics from the late 30s or the 40s, but it is a lively and playful retelling of a favorite fairy tale, and here's a scene you might remember, Prince Charming talking about an enchanted voice he's heard in the forest.
You know, Samson, there was something strange about that voice. Too beautiful to be real. Maybe it was some mysterious being, a wood sprite, or a... Here, stop!
Why, it's my dream, Prince. Your Highness. La 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 dee da da. Though I'm really not supposed to speak to strangers, but we've met before. I know you. I walked with you once upon a dream. I know you, the gleam in your eyes is so familiar a gleam, yet I know it's true that visions are seldom all they seem. But if I know you, I know what you'll do. You'll love me at once, the way you did once upon a dream.
One of the things I always notice about the Disney films is how the Disney animators gave life not only to the main characters, but also to the smallest little birds and animals. You saw them there with the cape. Each of the Disney animated features is re-released about every 7 years for a new generation of filmgoers. And so on this current release, Sleeping Beauty is going to be playing in hundreds of cities during the Christmas season, and then it's gone for 7 years, so there you are.
Well, you know, the easiest thing, of course, is to say, oh, go see Sleeping Beauty, take your kids, it's a wonderful, warm little show.
Yeah, but not Scrooge Siskel, right?
No, I'm not. I'm going to play the critic on this show. At least we got one here.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to say that, emphasize the point that you made, which is, this is not in the same league as Bambi, Pinocchio, Dumbo. Those are some of my favorite movies ever made. This is not in that league. You said it, and I think what we could see in that clip is the background stuff is sort of flat there. We used to have that full animation in those earliest pictures. It's too costly now. So, okay, it's a nice little show, but I just want to make it real clear this is not in the same league. I don't know if I'd go out of my way to see this.
So, okay, so wait a minute. You're saying it's not as good as the great Disney classics, so don't go see it. I'm saying it's not as good as the great Disney classics, but it's this Christmas's Disney release, so it's not that bad. It might be worth seeing.
Yeah, all I'm saying is I wouldn't rush to take my little kid there. I'd see if there was something else. Who knows? I might even want to see Star Trek as much as I didn't like it, rather than this.
Well, Gene, let's argue that later, because now, leaping into the balcony on a ferocious mission of vengeance against lousy movies, here he is, Spot the Wonder Dog, who barks every time he sees a film that ought to be cut up to make ukulele picks.
Start cutting, Spot. My dog of the week is a weak imitation of those old Arabian adventure films of the 40s, starring Sabu. Now, those were magical films, but this new one is deadly. It's called Arabian Adventure. Wow, what a clever title. I bet if they made a musical, they'd call it Arabian Musical. Anyway, Arabian Adventure is a cheap ripoff. Its flying carpet scenes are threadbare as a little boy fights against a bad king. The kid meets good and bad genies. One genie looks like a fat old man you might find hanging around a bus station. Cheapness is everywhere in Arabian Adventure. Now watch out for dogs like this when they come to your town. Be suspicious when a movie has lots of ads, no big-name stars, and opens or 30 or 40 theaters at once in your town. That's a sure tip-off to a rip-off.
Wow, poetry. My Dog this week is one of those R-rated softcore sex films. Doesn't just give sex a bad name, it even gives movies a bad name. It's called The Stud, and it stars the veteran British actress Joan Collins in a preposterous and dismally anti-erotic story written by her sister Jackie Collins. I wish they'd keep their fantasies in the family. The movie co-stars Oliver Tobias in the title role as the Stud. And he's the manager of a London disco. He spends his evenings bouncing the patrons and his nights bouncing on the patrons. He's a full-time gigolo. Some of his better moments in an elevator are captured on videotape, alas, and then everybody blackmails everybody else. And what we're left thinking is, if sex is this much trouble, maybe it would be more fun just to sit out for pizza.
Good point. So much for the dogs. Now to recap our main movies on this show. Both Roger and I agree on The Jerk. Steve Martin's brand of humor really doesn't last for 94 minutes. It's only sporadically funny. We give the film 2 no's. We can't recommend you see The Jerk, which is rated R. We both agree that Kramer vs. Kramer is one of the year's best films, with 2 superior performances by Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep, who were involved in a child custody fight. 2 very strong yeses for Kramer vs. Kramer. Roger and I split on Star Trek. Roger found it fanciful and fun. I found it a bloated, totally unamazing, stretched version of the TV show. Roger says yes, he recommends you see Star Trek. I say no. And 2 very strong no's for Mr. Mike's Mondo video, the R-rated pseudo-documentary. It was banned by NBC for good reason. It's lousy and mean-spirited. And we split on Sleeping Beauty. Roger finds it good holiday entertainment for the family. He gives it a marginal yes. I'm going to be the tough guy and pick on a fairy tale. I say no. I think there's better stuff around. Try and find it.
Okay, Gene, so we agree that on this program, the movie that we both really are in favor of is Kramer vs. Kramer with Dustin Hoffman. It's a great film.
Absolutely. And I think we learned one thing about each other.
Okay, what's
that? I think
that?
you are too easy on family entertainment films.
And I think you are too hard. So that's it for this show. Next time on Sneak Previews, Gene and I will review more of the big holiday pictures, including The Black Hole with an outer space station threatened by a mysterious cosmic force. All That Jazz, a musical drama starring Roy Scheider. And Robert Redford is a rodeo star who falls in love with Jane Fonda in The Electric Horseman. Until then, season screenings, everyone, and we'll see you at the movies.
Funding for Sneak Previews was provided by this station and by other public television stations.